Together, let's hear it from an expert. Join the conversation, it's informative and free. You and me, let's talk some strategy. Now here's your host, Morin-van.
Hello, everybody. My name is Morin-van, and we are live. We are going to talk about diversity in tech today. So if you're here, let me know where you're joining us from, on what platform, and where you live. We would love to know. Our guest today is from the Netherlands, so I'm hoping that some people from Europe will show up to join this conversation. Before I introduce you to our guest today, though, I want to welcome everybody who's here live, but also those who listen to Strategy Talks as a podcast. Last but not least, I want to do a quick shout out to our sponsor, Social Insider. They are the intuitive dashboard for social media analytics, reporting, and competitors analysis for brands and agencies. So if you need data, you need Social Insider. So without much further ado, I'm going to introduce my guest today to you, Dirkjan Hupkes. He's in the Netherlands right now. And who is he? He is the host of the podcast Women Disrupting Tech and the True Story Company. He interviews women who are successful in tech to inspire other women and girls to try a career in tech so we get better solutions for our health and climate problems. Dirkjan, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Doreen.
Yeah.
Good to be here.
Yeah, I know. It's been a while. Like we set
Yeah.
this up and now we're here, we're live. So the first question I have, I actually told you in the green room what my first question was, but I have a pre-question for that. How did you get into the tech world, and why is this cause, as I call it, maybe it's not a cause, maybe it's a drive. What drives you to be in this position to talk about women disrupting tech and the need for diversity in tech? How did you get to that?
Okay. So, long story short, I work with startups in the medical technology field, and also a couple of times in the climate tech field. And about 2 years ago, I ran into a statistic that said that 2% of all the funding that goes to tech startups is invested with companies that are founded by female founders. And I was like, okay, that is a very low number. So why is that? And then if you dive into those numbers, yeah, of course, there's some distortion because if you look at how tech startups are funded, or how startups are funded in general, there are several different levels, and a couple of different or a couple of transactions in the highest bracket, that's called a Series C, can distort that whole picture. So it can basically take care of any low number for female founders. But I also discovered a couple of other things, and that is that the number of female founders in tech is really low. It's
Yeah.
like in the 8% range. And that I started following the numbers, and I found out that the numbers went down. Even though there were in 2020, 2021, there were some really big financing rounds, Series C rounds, which distorted that whole picture. And that wasn't really the case in 2022. And now in 2023, the whole funding has dried up for startups. So I don't expect those numbers to improve. But I figured, because I've been working for about half my life for financial services companies, and I had female managers, women as managers. I didn't think too much of it because it was a normal thing to me. And then to find out that it's for women, it's exceptionally difficult to get funding from VCs, but also from angel investors, from banks, from well, what have you? I was like, well, that's not fair, is it?
It's not. It's not.
And
And you know,
and and then I started doing the research, and I found out that this couldn't have anything to do with financials, because if you look at performance numbers, it is well established that diverse teams just perform better, and that's not just financially. They are more innovative. They produce better products. So that started a bit of a, let's say, soul searching for myself. Okay, do I want to do something with this? And I figured, well, um, yeah, I think it's my obligation. If I see this and I think it's unfair, it's an obligation for myself to pick it up and run with it. So that's well,
that's the
the
short
story.
version.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
love it.
That's
I love it. I have like 20 million questions, but I want to hone in on this 2%.
yeah.
I have a good friend, Kate
Mm,
Chernus Bradley, who is CEO, owner of a tech company,
mm,
lately.ai, and she's thrown this statistics out before. And it sits so wrong when you hear it, but
yeah,
she is living it, right? She's been her company's been in existence for 9 years, and not moved the needle as far as investing, getting no from people. And it's absolutely crazy.
yeah,
And, I love that you decided that why, often when something comes on your path, okay, let's be realistic. A lot
mm.
of people would say, why me? Why would I do that? Why
I
would
had
I
that.
go?
I had that same question. I
Yeah.
actually talked to a couple of women to figure out, is this okay? Is this my fight to have? Is this my cause to embrace? Because I was like, okay, well, here I am, middle-aged white guy.
Yeah.
What am I supposed to bring
Yeah.
here, right? I'm one of the beneficiaries of the whole system that's behind this.
Yeah.
So why would I bother about it? And I was bothered about it. So I talked to a good friend of mine, Tekla Krooshoff, and she said, "Well, if you think it's your fight, do it.
Do it.
Go there. Just fight it."
Yeah. Well, and I've
That's
been watching your podcast,
uh,
and I've been listening to it, and I've been seeing the reactions on social, and you are stirring the pot, sir. So that's a
mm,
good thing. You are stirring the pot. You are making people think. You are having conversations. You're part of conversations, but you're stirring up the important conversation. Why is this happening?
yeah.
So let's dive into some of those questions. So let's start with, how does a diverse workforce contribute to the success and adaptability of tech companies, right? Why is it beneficial to tech companies to have more women in there?
Yeah, there's a couple of reasons, but I think there's first a couple of things that are really important. There's diversity and there's diversity. There's gender diversity, there's ethnic diversity, there's religious diversity, well, maybe even sexual orientation should play a role. And the thing is that if you have people from different backgrounds contributing to your product and to your company, that leads to all kinds of discussions that need to be had. So you need to have those discussions in order to have a good end result. And that's also why those companies are more innovative, produce better products, and have, and that's, I think, also for men important to understand, it's just better for business. Diverse teams, if you have a gender diverse team, they perform 25% better than non-diverse teams financially.
25%. That's
So
huge.
that's 25% more profit. Who doesn't want that, right?
Yeah. So
So,
so
so
let's so let's just ask the question. Are men scared of women in tech? Is this one
I,
of the reasons why we don't have as many women? Are men scared?
are men scared? Yes, and
Okay.
women are scared too,
Okay.
because it's easy enough to think something of it. It's more difficult to do something about it, because it takes everyone, so men and women, outside of the comfort zone, because they need to have all kinds of difficult discussions about how to contribute, how to communicate, how to make people feel at ease.
Right.
And if you're just a bunch of students who want to have fun and make a good product in the process, why would you go to the length of getting a woman in there just for the sake of, well, yeah, long run they understand the base case. They're not stupid people. But why would you have it if you can have it in a more comfortable way? I
So,
think the comfort zone plays a large role here. I also read a piece yesterday. I forgot if it was on McKinsey or HBR, Harvard Business Review, that said that if you have a diverse workforce, and even if that means just having one woman on a team, it means that you have your discussions will become broader, deeper, and also more difficult. It takes both ends out of their comfort zone because they have to cross a bridge.
right. I'm
Uh,
going to go stand up, though, and say it's probably a lot more uncomfortable for the one female in there if you just throw one female on the team than it is for the 6 or 8 or 10 guys.
oh yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
Especially if they're tech geeks. Yes, yeah. But that's also this stereotype. But yeah, for the guys to hire a woman, if they are with 6 or 8 of them, that becomes incredibly difficult because statistics has shown that hiring women or not hiring for diversity in general only becomes easier if your work for the diversity part of your workforce is above 30%. And that's also why I think it's important to start hiring women early
right.
if you have a tech company.
Right. So let
Yeah,
let's talk about the C-suite, right?
yeah,
So we're talking about women in tech. We're talking about, hiring them on your team,
yeah,
your product team, your service team.
yeah.
But what about the female CEOs or the C-suite? If you're a tech company, why not hire a female CFO or CMO, right? Why aren't
Uh,
you putting females more at the top? Because when it's integrated in your C suite, it's easier for people to also understand that it needs to be integrated everywhere else. So, where does that responsibility lie, Dirkjan? What do you think? Where does that responsibility lie of diversity at the top, not just at the bottom hiring,
well, maybe
product
good to
team
throw
members?
in, yeah, maybe to throw in some statistics.
Yeah.
I've I don't have them off the top of my head, but there's a concept called drop to the top. That means the drop off of women in tech from the moment that they're hired. So from the junior positions to the top, to the board positions. And the interesting part is that in the first 2, 3 levels, so junior, regular, or media and senior, there's almost no drop off. The drop off starts, although slowly, to board -1. And then all the way when it goes to the board, it all of a sudden drops from 25% or so to 12. And that's I think that has in part something to do with women having a different way of living their lives, because they get children, they want to raise those children, they want to be there. I think that's very good. And men are more accustomed to just work, 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 work. So to answer your question, I think it's more of a mentality thing, and more of an how do we accommodate that women from inside rise to the top. I think that's more important than just hiring people into the top tier just to set the example. But that's, to me, it's more like, okay, we've done our thing. Now we're okay. And I think it's much more long term, much more strategic in that sense, that you really have to be considerate about how women live their life, how female life evolves, and
Right.
that
But
they come
here's
back after after pregnancy.
right. But here's the thing, and I
Hmm.
know this from real life because I know several people who've
Hmm.
gone through this. Because they're expected to take that break or to step away or to have those children,
Hmm.
some women aren't given the chance to move up. They're passed
True.
over for the promotions. They're passed
Hmm.
over for the leadership
Yeah.
positions because they're expected. And even somebody who gets married at a young age, a female,
Hmm.
could have that same thing happen.
Hmm.
Single versus married, I think might even make a difference. So we all need to throw away these biases
Yeah.
because I know I started building a business age 40 with 4 children at home.
Hmm.
And marketing is not quite tech, so I don't equate the same thing. And there's a lot of females in our business, but these biases that we have that we see carry through. And then in tech, I certainly know of instances where they're not just even given a chance. They're
No.
not even looked at for promotion, and so it's everywhere. And I love that you're highlighting this in your podcast. I love that you're an
Uh,
ally to the women in your life and the women in your workspace,
yeah.
to bring this forward.
Yeah.
Now, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
What are men saying about you doing this? Because I know what females are probably applauding you and
Yeah.
saying yes and sharing the podcast and excited to be on it. What are you getting? What are you hearing from the men in your network about you doing this?
Well, quite a bit of support, I think. Some say, well, you could do a bit less, yeah, over the top, a bit less drama, but overall, I think there's quite a bit of support. Uh, I'd like to think that my dad would be proud of me. But yeah,
Have you? Here's a follow up question. Have
uh,
you interviewed any men for the
no,
Women in Tech podcast?
no,
You're not
no.
going
That's
to?
only. I hope to have Constantijn van Oranje in episode 49. I'm currently at 23, or 23 published, and what is it? About 30-ish or so
Recorded.
recorded. I hope to have him in episode 49, and he should be the first man.
That would be
I,
amazing.
the thing is, it's not because I don't want to have men in the podcast. I've tried a couple of times, and they were like, yeah, but it's not so special that I'm doing this. And I'm like, well, yes, you are special, but hey,
Yeah.
if you don't want to take the stage,
Yeah.
that's not my decision. Eh?
Right.
But the thing is that I also think that for the short term, what I want to focus on is giving the women who are in tech, who are entrepreneurs, who are female founders, who are financing those female founders, because that also it's a whole different discussion. I want to give them a platform just to show, hey, they are there,
Right.
because like half of my network is probably male, and they are going to see it.
Right.
And they are going to tell their sisters, their
Their
daughters,
Yep.
like, hey, how do you think about this? Maybe, do you want to be in tech? And if it moves the needle for like 2 or 3 people,
It's worth it.
it's already worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a
There's,
daughter who's in
yeah,
tech, so
okay,
it's very close to my heart. She's
yeah,
young and she's only a year and a half, 2 years into her career. So
yeah,
definitely this is close to my heart, and I applaud you for what you're doing and what you're
yeah,
bringing and having this discussion with me on my podcast, hoping that there's people that are
Yeah.
watching and listening and, bring more awareness to this. So, what just let's talk about recruiting HR,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
what steps can a tech company, say you're a tech company, say you're either in HR, the C-suite, you're a CEO, or somebody that's ready to hire, what can you do to ensure that you're recruiting and retaining a diverse range of talent? Because they could say, well, 90% of the applicants is male,
Yeah.
right? Or
Which
so,
is likely.
which is likely. So
Yeah.
how can they position themselves? Is that something that they need to write out? Is that something they need to discuss before the hiring process? Are
Yeah.
they say, like, how does that work?
I think, to be honest, it's not my expertise, but I've asked several guests this question, and what I keep getting back is two things. One is, if you have any women in the company, make sure they are visible,
Okay.
online, offline. Make sure that people see that there are women working for you,
Yeah.
because people in general, but women a bit more than men, will look at a company and look at their peers. Would I feel at home there?
Sure.
Would I feel comfortable there? And if there's no women, so the famous example is of a large IT company from France who did a hiring exercise in the Netherlands and had posters all over the place with only men on them. Men smiling, successful, like men. And they were surprised not to get any female applicants until someone told them, well, if you don't put a woman in there, women are not going to feel like, hey, that's me.
Right.
That's my company.
That's
Those are
marketing, by
my
the way.
buddies. Yeah,
That's-
well, there's a
yeah.
large part marketing
Yeah.
involved.
Yeah.
And that's why the platform is also so extremely important. So last year, I think that's also something for local governments to pick up on. There's a company in the Netherlands called Equals, and they did a poster campaign where they put women in all different types of positions in a tech company, ranging from the national innovation company, that's a government subsidized company, TNO, to really tech startup CEOs and founders. They put them on a poster for everyone to see, and they put them on the bus stops, on the metro stops, on the tram stops. You could in The Hague and in Amsterdam, you could see them everywhere, literally everywhere, for a week.
Yeah.
And as a result, small children, but also let's say more grown-up people, are going to see, hey, but this is possible. So it's more let's say more the tech environment needs to do something in terms of the hiring, but we also really need to promote the women who are already there, because there's as my guest says last week, there's in the 18% of women in tech in the Netherlands, there's quite a few beautiful, very persistent, successful founders in there. So it's not that the women are not there. They're just not visible unless we make them visible.
And that we make it visible. Actually, I have a friend who was part of that campaign in Amsterdam. Okay. Yeah, and she was on the poster with her daughter, which is great. And I love that you mentioned that it starts from the ground up. So what are, I'm in America, you're in the Netherlands. What are Dutch schools doing? What is the education system doing in the Netherlands to address this lack of diversity in tech? Are they doing anything? Are they talking about it? Are they teaching it? Because I grew up in the Netherlands, and in the 80s, STEM was not really a thing that women were encouraged to go be in. So
I think
has that changed?
It's changing a bit. At least there's a sense of urgency.
Okay.
So also on government level, what you see also in politics, there's quite a bit more women in politics, in important positions like ministers and secretaries, not regular clerical staff, but really
Yeah.
like important people in the government
Yeah.
who are a woman. So that's already good. That also fosters the whole discussion about having more women in tech, having just more diverse, equal workforce in terms of composition, but also in terms of compensation. Um, is it a thing in education? I find it hard to say because I don't have children.
Okay.
So for me, it's difficult to say. What I do keep hearing is that it's still difficult for schools to push girls into a direction, in a technical direction, because we are raised uh, that tech is somehow dirty or somehow hard work, and that's not female. And I think if anything needs to be done, I think literally we need to build this up from the ground
Right.
and start raising our children in a different way. And in some cases, that may mean that we have to rewrite children's books, even because there's the famous example of Nijntje,
Yeah.
Nifty.
Yeah.
It's a Dutch,
The little
Dutch,
rabbit, Miffy.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and it's like really pleasant character, but the women are women
Yeah.
and the men are men. And
Right.
if you look at someone in tech, it's a black drawing. We are taught that black is dirty, which has all kinds of racial consequences, but it also has the consequence that black is not beautiful. So you don't send your children there, especially not your daughters.
Right. Right. So the conversation needs to start early and
Early, and also with parents. It's
with
not just you can't. I always say you can't outsource your raising your children, so you
your
need to do
parenting. Yeah.
your parenting part. So yeah, you need
Yeah. And
to also take responsibility there as a parent.
yeah, so a lot of that is so what I'm hearing you say, some of that is cultural.
Yeah,
We are in the US, we
for
are
sure.
definitely lacking skilled tradesmen and women.
Hmm.
People have been for years, for 20, 30 years, they've been saying everybody should go to college. And so now all our tradespeople are retiring and we don't have enough people to build
Yeah.
homes, to do plumbing, to do electrical. And so those who do are making more money than those who went to college. And
Hmm.
so that's part of this discussion where, what are we teaching our children? What are the words we use when we talk about a career?
Yeah.
And so I love that we've had this discussion. We are just about at the end, Dirkjan. Is there
Yeah.
anything that you want to touch on that I didn't ask you about, a statistic or a chart that you can give us on how we also can be allies to women in tech? What is something that we could do today, tomorrow, going forward?
Well, in addition to what I already mentioned, so really look at yourself and really look at what you can do in the workforce. Also, look at how you can make have a bit more respect for each other, because
Right.
in the end, it all starts with respecting each other's values and starting. We all like to think that we are all created equal, and that also means that you should respect your equals, I think. That's where it starts. And from there, it's yeah, just accepting that other people may do different things, have different opinions, and that it's okay.
Yeah. Well, I absolutely love this conversation with you, Dirkjan.
Yeah,
I love that you stand with women, next to women,
yeah,
and that you then give them a hand and lift them up, which is
yeah,
really important. I absolutely love this. I'm going to make sure that I share the link to your podcast in the
yeah.
show notes. So if you are watching this and you want to listen now, do I remember your podcasts are in Dutch though, right?
In part, There's also quite a bit of the English episodes, and there are
Okay.
more coming. So I'm actually
Perfect.
switching from Dutch to English because
Okay.
it had a bit broader appeal than I initially figured it would have.
Yeah, no, for sure. So I'll make sure to maybe link to a couple of episodes that
Yeah,
are in English too. So
yeah,
Dirkjan, thank you so much. If people want to connect with you
yeah,
and want to find you, want to talk to you and say, I want to join. I want to
yeah,
join this fight or whatever it is that we call
yeah.
it. I want to join you in in highlighting women in tech. How can they connect with you, and where would you like to connect with them?
Okay, there's two places. One is womendisruptingtech.blog.
Okay.
It's my website. There you can read all the stories and the show notes of the podcasts. And you can also become part of the Women Disrupting Tech community,
Okay, cool. I'm going to
which,
do that. Yeah.
yeah, so that's one. And if you want to link with me personally, you can find me on LinkedIn. It's quite easy. Dirkjan Hupkes. Uh, Dirkjan, Dirkjan, one word, and Hupkes, Hupkes, also one
Perfect.
word. If you do that, or if you even Google it, you will find just me.
All right. Awesome.
So,
Wonderful. Well, thank you for your time this morning. I
and
know it's
thanks for having
afternoon for
me.
you.
Yeah,
I absolutely love this conversation. If
yeah,
you are listening to this on the replay and you have questions for Dirkjan, put hashtag replay in the comments and or tag Dirkjan, tag me, and we'll answer them. Go listen to some of the episodes, and I think there's more to come. I would love to have you back on next year and see if any, what's happening in this space, Dirkjan. I think this is a
sounds like a
very,
plan.
yeah, I think this is a very important conversation to be
Yeah.
having. So let's make sure we do that. Once again, thank you for being here, and thank you all for listening and for watching. I will be back next week with another episode of Strategy Talks. See you later, everybody.
Okay, thanks. Bye.